Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. We have a new guest on the show this week, someone we've never had before, Holly Porter from the brand new Delmarva Chicken Association. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate being on here.
So you had the former Delmarva poultry industry. It has a new name, and that's exciting. It doesn't seem like something like that would be exciting, but we've always wondered for years why it was called poultry, but it kind of makes it more of a sophisticated name for chicken. But chickens are what we do.
Right. That's exactly it. And that's an important piece of why we looked at doing the name change and the rebranding was the fact that meat chicken is what we represent. It's the broiler industry. It's what we have here in Delmarva. So that's who we are. That's really what we represent. That's what we grow. And we wanted to make sure that that was clear and folks understood that.
So for people who don't know, what does the Delmarva Chicken Association do?
Well, we are the trade association that represents the chicken growers, the chicken companies, and then what we call our allied businesses here on the Delmarva Peninsula. So that's all of Delaware, the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and the Eastern Shore of Virginia. And we help represent them when it comes for advocacy, for education, and then of course membership benefits as well too.
How many chicken growers do we have on the peninsula?
We have approximately 1,300 chicken growers here on Delmarva. That number has decreased slightly over the years, but we have about 1,300 that grow chickens for the 5 companies here on the shore, and a little over 5,000 houses.
That's amazing. Now, I grew up down in Ironshire near Berlin, and we had some chicken houses, but we mostly did pigs, and pigs took all of our time. And pigs are just awful to deal with, but the chickens were easy to deal with. But the technology has changed so much. Chicken houses are really, really amazingly efficient now.
Absolutely. The ones that have been built in the past few years are the most environmentally efficient houses that you're really going to find. You know, starting from the outside with the stormwater management practices that are in place, with the swales, the ponds, and everything in between, and then inside the efficiencies of the houses and how they're built, the construction, the technology, the nipple drinkers was one of the first advancements in the drinking systems, the feeders, then you have the ventilation systems, the tunnel ventilation systems, and then the technology that really reads everything. So a grower can know everything that's going on inside of their house with a smartphone. So it is absolutely amazing. It's allowed for us to have less growers that are still maintaining about the same amount of chicken houses because of the technology that's out there. You know, 20, 25 years ago, somebody would really probably only be able to handle about 2 to 3 houses. Now it's easily 4 to 6 houses that one person can manage.
Right, and you see that all the time now. There's 4, 5, or 6 houses seems to be the business plan now to make it a really efficient year-round operation.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, the stormwater and some of those regulations have cost to them. They have great environmental benefits, but they also have cost to them. So really for it to cash flow, you know, usually you're looking at between 4 to 6 houses to make it work and for the farmer to be able to not only pay the bills, but also to live comfortably as well too.
As someone who's been around here a long time covering stories, I remember when Pfiesteria hit 20, 25 years ago, whenever that was, and there became much more of a environmental spotlight on what the poultry industry did. And at the time, a lot of the poultry farmers pushed back. They didn't want the regulation. They didn't see the need for the regulation. Delmarva poultry industry, even then at that point, was very sort of obstinate about, do we really need all this regulation? So there was sort of a mindset that the regulation wasn't needed, but as time has gone on, you guys have really taken the ball and run with it and really instilled things in the farms that were needed to protect the environment.
Sure, absolutely. I think one of the biggest initiatives that we've had for years now is what we call our good neighbor policy, where again, we recognize the fact that, you know, these are chicken farms that are out in the country, but they're also neighbors that are moving more and more to the country. And so we want to make sure that folks can coexist or get along as well too. So, you know, several years ago, we put together a good neighbor policy that includes things like, buffers, our vegetative environmental buffer program that we have, someone there on staff to really help folks in planting trees. We've done a lot of work in making sure that there's boundaries that are set up between farms and areas as well too. Of course, the manure storage. If you go onto a chicken farm, you will not find manure outside of a house. It is either inside of a chicken house
Yeah.
or it's under manure storage.
Yeah.
You're just not going to find it anywhere on the farm. And that's really, that's the important piece of it too, when you take a look at our chicken farms now and the way that they have been built, the way that they're managed, is really, really important. The management inside the house is really important when it talks about the quality, the litter management, to your point, not only for the health of the birds, but also the environment itself as well too.
Right, you all want to be good neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. So, farmers really, they want to continue to raise animals. They want to farm just like they always have, but they have to recognize too that we have a lot of folks that have moved into the Delmarva area over the years. And so, there's got to be a way that folks can raise the food that we're all eating and yet still be able to be good neighbors with everyone around us.
And what I see too is it's not just a question of having good practices. Kind of takes the bullet out of the gun when people want to attack the poultry industry for all of the Bay's problems. The Bay has lots of problems coming from lots of different areas. But if you keep your house in order, people will realize that it's not you so much as it might be something else.
Right, absolutely. And I think, again, when you look at the different regulations, you look at the things that are still to come. The PMT, the phosphorus management tool in Maryland, is still to come. And some of the efforts that we've worked on in trying to make sure that our growers have, the ability to find places that want litter, and that grain farmers who use this litter. So oftentimes I hear folks mention litter as being a waste. And it's absolutely not a waste. It's a value added, it's a slow release organic fertilizer, locally raised, as local as it gets. And it's great in going back out and being put onto the fields that raises the corn and soybeans, which eventually feeds the chicken. So it's very much a cycle here on Delmarva, and it's a good cycle. And so it's important that we just want to make sure for those fields that can't take more litter, whether they have high phosphorus or other reasons, that we get it to the farms and the places that need it. And as a matter of fact, that's an effort that we've been working on ourselves in creating an app. It is very similar to a Match.com for litter, and we're working on it and hoping to roll that out actually by the end of the year. So again, just one more initiative where we as the chicken community have really stepped up and said, you know what, we see that there's some challenges and we're going to take the bull by the horns and we're going to help in facing those challenges and figure out some answers.
Yeah, that's another thing that so many of my readers have never understood is that the poultry litter does have incredible value. And the farmers want to really be able to take advantage of that value, not just using it for themselves, but selling it. And I know with Purdue Agribusiness and others, there's so many ways to convert the litter into something that's more manageable for transportation, that doesn't cause as much damage or smell while it's being moved around. Just great strides in that area, but it's an important economic component for the farmers.
Absolutely. Our growers do not see this as a waste. They're not dumping it into streams or putting it in places. It's a value add product for them. And so they're making sure that, the farmers have it. And again, it's good because it has nitrogen, it has phosphorus, which is what crops need, but it also really helps with the soil health condition. A majority of litter is very much organic matter. It's the bedding that comes not just from the manure itself from the chickens, but it's the bedding piece of it. So it's that organic matter that really is important for the soil and making sure that we can get a proper crop, no matter, again, whether it's corn, soybeans, or there's other organic growers that use it for vegetables oftentimes as well too.
When I was a kid and people would complain about the smell of chicken houses and the litter, the answer was, well, it's the smell of money. We need that for our economy, so stop complaining about it. We need it. And I used to think, well, that makes sense. And then I lived near a paper mill when I was down in North Carolina going to school. And if the wind blew right, you couldn't even function. Because it smelled so bad. And you go outside and you complain. And the locals would say, well, that's the smell of money. And I would go, no, it's not. It's, it's just a horrible smell. My point is, you guys went out and organized a thing, some sort of metering systems. You could measure what the smell is in a certain area. So tell me all about that.
Sure. So you're right. We had quite a few for a number of years. We had some legislation in Annapolis called the Community Healthy Air Act, where there were folks who were concerned about the public health aspects around chicken houses. And you're right, at this point, there really isn't a lot of science. There isn't anything that shows. Again, when I talk to any of our chicken growers that not only live on the farm, but are in those houses every day, there's several of them that I'm hoping to be nearly as healthy when I'm at their age as well too. So we had a hard time in understanding what some of these concerns were, yet at the same time, I think it was important to recognize that we didn't have data. And so the chicken industry, DCA now, Delmarva Chicken Association, as well as the companies, said we need to do something about this. So we partnered with the Maryland Department of the Environment, who is not only the regulatory arm, but also the experts. We're really, really good at raising chickens. We're not so good at air monitoring by any means. And we also partnered with the Campbell Foundation for the Environment. And we said, what can we do? How can we get some more data? So we have two new air monitoring stations that are on the lower shore, one in Princess Anne, one in Pocomoke City. And we also retrofitted two other stations, one that's in the Horn Point area in Dorchester County, and then one that's in the Baltimore City area. And we're gathering data for continuous ammonia, particulate matter 2.5, and particulate matter 10, which the fine particulate matter, or PM 2.5, is also often associated with respiratory issues and concerns as well too. And so we're gathering that data, and we're really excited. We were nervous when COVID struck that this was going to slow things down, but MDE was able to get the stations up and running. So we've been gathering data since April 1st, and there's a website out on MDE's website, air site, that you can go and take a look at nearly real-time data, as well as we're gathering monthly, and we're looking at it overall. The PM 2.5 and PM 10, there are both national ambient air quality standards for folks to sort of give a baseline, really. Ammonia does not have that ambient air standard. So MDE has put together some baselines that they were sort of looking on based off of some other aspects, really based off of if there was actually ammonia coming from pipes, which again, these are not point source, so it's not quite the same, but it gives people a threshold to look at. And so far that data, I think, has been important. We are not at this point in time seeing anything from our perspective that's red flags, but at the same time, we still have another 6 to 7 months to go with the information. It's certainly not the end of the study, or it's not quite the comprehensive study that some would like, but it's really data. It was information that we didn't have before. And we as the chicken community stepped up and said, okay, you know what, we don't have any data, we don't have information, we'll put our money where our mouth is and let's go gather some. So that was a project that we're really proud on. And again, in being able to show, not only are we trying to be good neighbors, but we really are, it's important for public health. I live here on the Delmarva. I live not more than a half mile from a chicken farm myself, so I want to know what's in my air, that my kids are breathing, that I'm breathing just as much as anybody else.
Right, rather than just dismiss it as the smell of money.
Exactly,
Right.
Exactly. Although I do still tell my children that as well too, especially in the spring when the fields are
right. There's going to be 10
up.
days every spring where there's big piles of manure, chicken manure that gets spread out, and just depending on the weather conditions, some years it's worse than others.
Right. Right.
But I'm not convinced it is causing any real health damage.
And at this point in time, we aren't either. And like I said, when you talk to and you see growers who have been in chicken houses who, again, we talk about how chicken houses have evolved, how chicken farms have evolved. And one of the big things that have evolved is the amount of litter management inside those houses that has reduced the amount of ammonia in particular that is in the chicken houses. So the less you have in the house, the less that's even possibly coming out. So, again, growing up as a kid here on Delmarva in the 80s and 90s, that smell of money was probably a lot stronger than it is
Very
now.
much so.
Yeah,
Very much
absolutely.
so. Yeah.
So
I try to tell my kids about how when the chicken trucks had the wooden crates and the crates would break open, and it was normal to see chickens walking along the side of the road here on the shoulder, just pecking away, just like always, because they would fall off the chicken trucks. And you don't see that anymore. There's much more efficiency with that as well.
Right, absolutely. I think that's one of the exciting things about our chicken industry is that we are always evolving. We're always doing research. We're always trying to be better, whether it's animal welfare, whether it's environmental, whether it's efficiencies, cost efficiency, feed efficiency. I mean, the chickens that we grow now actually eat less and still get to the pounds that we need. So again, there's always gains to be had, and it's sort of exciting to see the amount of research that's always going on within our industry.
Someone should research me because I feel like I eat less, but I still gain weight. I don't know what that is.
I have that same problem as well too.
Another thing my readers don't understand is the right to farm. There are lots of rules that protect farmers that allow them to do their job. So you want to talk about right to farming?
I would, and yes and no actually is how I would answer that. So there is, here in the state of Maryland and within the counties, especially on the Eastern Shore, we do have the right to farm. And really what that means though is that it doesn't necessarily mean the farmers have the right to do anything they want. They still have to abide by all federal, state, and local rules. So, but it basically says as long as you're abiding by all of those federal, local, and state rules, that when things happen like dust, so right now when it's not raining and we see a lot of combining going on, there's a lot of dust that's flying right now. Or there's a lot of noise, or those combines are running until 11, 12 o'clock at night because again they're trying to get grain off. So really what that is saying is that we have that right, that ability for farmers to be able to farm and to do these practices as needed. And that's very similar to, with our chicken industry. So yes, there are going to be times where there may be smells. There are going to be times where there may be dust. But as long as we're following all the rules and regulations, we have that ability to farm here in our area. And it's important because if not, I think there would be a lot of concerns from farmers about, what their neighbors are saying, especially, again, as we see more and more folks move into the Delmarva who are not familiar with the area, that, may have come from more urban or suburban areas and don't understand, what that loud combine is in the middle of the night, or, what the trucks that are hauling the chickens or the grain at the middle of the night. Oftentimes those trucks are coming in late at night as well too. So it's important to have that protection so that farmers know that what they're doing is protected, and they can, it's basically a continuation of operation really.
One of the things we've seen in recent years is people in different counties trying to enact zoning regulations that affect chicken houses. Where does some of that stand? Where is it headed?
Several years ago, several of the counties, especially here on the lower shore, were taking a look at, what are those parameters, meaning, how far away should a chicken house be from a resident's house as well too. And it really was across the board because again, this is the county planning and zoning that really determines that. And so we were part of those discussions, and really what we said is, we have a good neighbor policy that really gives those parameters. And what we found is when we showed that to counties and we offered that, many of the counties took those suggestions that, again, had already been vetted, had already been talked about with growers, with chicken companies, and everybody in between, and really took those to heart as to, these make the most sense as well too. So CAFOs, and it's interesting. So CAFO stands for the Concentrated Animal Feeding Operation. And it is basically a term that is used by EPA. It's a definition that's used by EPA. But I think what's often forgotten is that a CAFO is just simply a term, because at the end of the day, it's a chicken farm.
Right.
So you can have, medium-sized, large-sized CAFOs. So really all that has to do is the amount of chickens that are going to be raised on that farm, whether it's the number of houses or so forth. So you can have a 2-house CAFO, or you can have a 10-house CAFO. It's the same thing. They're all still chicken farms, depending. And again, oftentimes it's used as a negative, when really, like I said, it's more of just a definition from EPA based upon their parameters that they're looking at. So it sometimes can has a negative feel to it. I don't use that term quite honestly. When we talk about CAFOs, we're talking about chicken farms at the end of the day. Most all of our chicken farms are owned and operated by families. They're family farms. They may be set up as LLCs, as partnerships, as incorporations, or whatever designation you may have. But at the end of the day, they're family farms that are running those farms and owning those operations. More and more farmers that are concentrating on one type of agriculture. So, a grain farmer is only going to be a grain farmer. or a chicken farmer may only have chicken houses. And that way too, that allows them to really concentrate and make sure that they're doing all that they can to raise the best crop, whether that's a grain crop, whether that's a chicken crop as well too. So we are seeing more and more of that. The diversification is a little bit different than it was in years past. But I think a lot of that also comes down to, again, the ability to have, 6 houses under one farm or one family who's working that, and to be able to make sure that you're still getting the absolute best animal welfare that you possibly can. And so you're not spread thin. As we know, in right now in the time in the fall when the corn's ready to pick or the beans are ready to pick, you need to be picking. Well, that
Right.
makes it really hard to also be checking on your chicken houses as well too. So it makes it tougher. And so this way, oftentimes with folks concentrating or focusing on one aspect of agriculture over another, it seems to be working a little bit better as well too.
I do admire the Delmarva Chicken Association because every year, one thing I do really admire is that every year, as part of your spring banquet that you have, you recognize these family farmers and you put out these little stories about them and very nice photos of them together on their farms and tell what they've accomplished through the years through the integrators that they work for. I really look forward to that, and I really enjoy it. I love hearing those little stories.
It is something that we really look forward to, and unfortunately, as with many
Yeah.
events this year, that one was one that had to be canceled. And it was a disappointment because we get nearly 900 people that come out to our booster banquet event here in Salisbury at the Civic Center every year.
And yes, they do serve chicken.
And absolutely, we do serve chicken. Yes, absolutely. So, and we were disappointed as well too. We did recognize those growers, and actually we just recently recognized them at our annual meeting. We had our
Right.
annual membership meeting last week, and so we recognized them there, and there'll be some additional press that'll come out about them. In the meantime, we've been doing little things here and there and trying to do some interviews and try to still recognize them. But yeah, I mean, these are outstanding growers. These are growers that have worked with the companies help in picking those folks. And they have, a criteria of list that they look at. A lot of them, we have one that's actually one of our board members. We have one that recently worked with us and put in a buffer, environmental or vegetative buffer around the farm as well too. We have everyone from, a younger couple that also has a bus company as well too, to folks who have been, this is the second career. They worked in one thing for a number of years, and now this is a second career for them. So it's nice. It's fun to see the stories, to learn more about the different, because it's such a wide range of folks that get into the chicken business. So.
No, I enjoy that. I think you have a nice scholarship program too for the families.
Actually, our scholarship is broader than that. So it's not just for our members. Of course, that's an important part, but it's really for anybody who wants to go into any type of major that could have an impact on the chicken community. And that, quite honestly, is a wide range. So, if you think about some of the different jobs that are available within our industry, that's from everything on the farm to the marketing, sales, finance, the veterinarians, the nutritionists, the flock supervisors, even within the processing plants, you have a lot of technical skills that are needed as well too, management skills. So it's really a very wide range. Me personally, I'm a communications major, so I'm not sure how I would have ever imagined being where I am working in the industry, but it sort of takes all types. So yes, we have our scholarship program that we run. Actually, we'll start opening that up for applications in the next month or two. And we usually announce those around May or June timeframe. And we also have a golf tournament that helps to sponsor that event. Of course, that was another one where
Right.
last year we did it virtual. We had a few folks that contributed. It's really sort of hard to virtually play golf. But we intend to bring it back this year, definitely so, and we get a lot of supporters for that, and all of those funds from that golf tournament are used for the scholarship program. But we still were able to, even without the golf tournament this year, we were still able to fund nearly $20,000 in scholarships.
So much of what I covered about poultry was truly negative. What has made things better for poultry?
The chicken community has stepped up. It's recognized where there's challenges, where there's opportunities. And it's really worked to do better, to be better, and to be transparent. And I think that's really important. That's probably one of the biggest pieces that I've seen, even in my time frame of working on Delmarva, working within the ag industry for, more years than I'd like to admit to. But I think just the transparency of wanting to be open, wanting to be honest, wanting to share, what's going on, wanting to talk about our welfare, talk about how we're raising the animals safely, to take a look and talk about our environmental record, talk about all of the good things that are going on, doing tours, bringing folks out. Now, of course, we're not in agritourism, and we often say, I would love to do a tour every single day on a chicken farm so folks could really see what's going on. We can't do that, mainly because of biosecurity. So, we were practicing biosecurity and PPE long before COVID came along, mainly for the health of our birds. So, we really can't open it up. However, we've tried to have other avenues. Chickencheckin.com is a great website where they've done some virtual videos inside of processing plants, inside of chicken houses. Last year at the Delaware State Fair, we actually had a virtual reality glasses where people could actually put these on and feel like they were inside of a chicken house. And it was absolutely amazing, some of the comments from folks who never have, who don't realize that our birds are not in cages, that they have plenty of room to roam around in within the houses, that they are very comfortable. On a very hot, 90-degree humid day in the summer, go inside of a chicken house because it's going to be much cooler, you know. So those are the types of things that I think that, the chicken community over the years has tried to do more and more. It fits in well with education. It's a big part of the Delmarva Chicken Association's mission in education, not only education for our members and making them better, but also education to the general public. And understanding what we do, how we do it, how we raise the food that they're eating, every night. And I think that's really important to try to help negate some of the negative press where we can. We still have our challenges, and we still have, a long ways to go, I think, in some of the things we do. But I do think there's been a lot of inroads over the years.
Yeah, I wish people could go in the plants to see it, because what I see as a reporter when I go in there, and I was supposed to look at it in a critical eye. I see the camaraderie of the people that work there. Just the whole process, the schematics and how the thing works, is just fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely, and the automation.
Yeah.
Again, you want to talk about over the years. Not only have we seen technology advancements on the farms, but the automation within the processing plants has been amazing. I mean, probably one of the first plants that I visited was the Salisbury plant here. And that was probably about almost 20 years ago when I first started within ag. And I went back and did a similar tour about 10 years ago. And just in that 10-year time frame, to see the amount of automation, the places where it used to be people, and now it's not, it's machinery. I think that, quite honestly, you're going to see that continue. It already was continuing, but of course, I believe COVID has probably helped to push that along even more, just like it's helped to push every one of us along in the sense of who knew what Zoom was a year ago,
Right.
And yet we're all on it quite a bit today.
Right.
So again, that automation, I think, is going to continue. The technology is going to continue throughout our whole community, whether it's on the chicken farms or it's in the processing plants as well too.
Well, congratulations on your rebranding. What's your website so we can go find out more about your operation?
Yep, it's just www.dcachicken.com. And you can find out more. You can take a look at our new logo. We're very pleased to have the logo. It's still reminiscent of our history. It has the 1948 when we were established. It has a lot of the blue and gold, which was our colors, but it has what I think is a more modern broiler, sort of facing forward. It's in a circular motion or circles, so very much the connection, which I really think is what our Delmarva Chicken Association is all about. We're connecting the growers, we're connecting the companies, the ally businesses, academia, stakeholders, and everybody in between in Delmarva.
She's Holly Porter, Executive Director of the Delmarva Chicken Association, the old Delmarva poultry industry, and we're thrilled she was here with us today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of One-on-One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.